imagined that if I did an interview, I would do two versions of it. You would have a live, uncut version of it. So there's no trickery. Listen, my degree's in journalism. My AA's in journalism. So I know how it's easy to cut and paste. I talk about it all the time on the show. It's easy to take quotes out of context. I would want a raw audio version of the interview and then a condensed version of the interview to put on the show. So I need to get the paperwork signed for that. And a lot of times you got to wonder if these people are even going to trust me to fill out, like, am I interviewing them with their best interest at heart? Probably not. Like, I'm not interviewing them to be malicious, but at the same time, I'm trying to put together entertainment. And at the end of the day, the show needs to be entertaining. So if I'm doing an interview with someone and it sucks, right? I got to edit it down to like 10 minutes. I need legal proof. I need like a legal document saying that I can edit it. Secondly, I need to have documents showing that I can, this is all nerd stuff, but I need to have documents showing that I can use your voice on my podcast. I can go to a lawyer. I know a bunch. I can go and have one of my buddies drop some paperwork, send it to him. But then the episode comes out and they don't like the way they're represented in the episode. Even if there is a long form version of it, he sues me and then I gotta fight a lawsuit and all this stuff, and I have to go to court and say, well, he signed these contracts, and in the meantime he's contacting the podcast host and telling the YouTube channel that I'm using his audio without permission, even though that's not true. Is all of that stuff worth it for a 20-minute interview with Autism Hat Man? Because he asked twice to be on the show. The answer is no. So is it possible that I could have interviewed him and got his side of the story, even though I was pulling stuff right off of his blog, right? Or his website. And we would talk back and forth. It would be entertaining. But then a year later, I get a lawsuit threat. And then I got to go through all this stuff, see? That's why I don't do it. Obviously, if it's somebody who's a friend of the show, for lack of a better word, you know what I mean? Someone who gets the show, understands it, and stuff like that, and I'm interviewing them, the threat of a lawsuit's much lower, but it still exists. And the other thing is technical, too. I hate listening to bad audio on podcasts, so if I'm recording it, Hans has a pretty good microphone, but if I'm recording with someone who's making hats out of tinfoil, and his mic sucks, and then I choose not to release the interview, I've just wasted my time, and I don't have a lot of time to waste. So where was I going with this? So I'll have people find stuff that I've talked about on the show. Shockingly, the story I have the most people contacting me behind the scenes about was the one about Ass Gear. Ass Gear was this guy. It's not an actual, like, gear for your ass. Some guy invented that to keep away aliens. Ass Gear was this guy who murdered his ex-roommate. He jumped out of her closet, and his goal was to... Some of you guys may remember this episode. It's one of my favorites. I hate that the story's very, very intriguing, but this guy jumps out of this closet. He's in love with his ex-roommate. He hides in her closet. His plan is, when she comes home, he's going to jump out of the closet, blindfold her, beat her up or something like that, or throw her on the bed, and then run out and then change out of his clothes and come back in a superhero costume, and he's like, ta-da, I'm here to save you from the burglar. The point is I guess I should have said this, she didn't know, she wasn't supposed to know Ass Gear was in the closet. So he was going to attack her from behind, she wouldn't know it was him, he would come in and save the day and scare the bully. He's like faking a fight, he's like, oh, my stomach, punch, punch, punch. She's like, dude, I can hear you saying punch. It went wrong, obviously, and he killed her. And then he's in prison now. He hasn't been sentenced yet. I get emails about that. I actually got an email. I'm not going to reveal the person's name, but I got an email right before I went on vacation back in the summer. And he said, hey, I was trying to find some information on Ass Gear when he was getting sentenced and your video popped up. I was good friends with the woman who was murdered. And I remember reading that part of the email and thinking, like, what's the rest of the email going to be? Because I was really, like, joking in that segment, but all of the jokes were directed at him, at Ass Gear. About what a buffoon he was, how foolish he was, what big old dummy. Making jokes about him. I never made any derogatory comments about the young victim or anyone in her circle. And I continue to read the email, and he goes, yeah, the episode... I don't think he said the episode was good, but he wasn't upset about it. He did offer to give me more information about it, and I emailed him. That's a hard email to write back, but he wasn't like, yeah, dude, thumbs up, dude, it's so funny, huh? I was laughing so hard. It also wasn't, you're a jerk. It's kind of somewhere in the middle. And I emailed him back. He offered to give me more information. I said, yeah, if you'd like to, that'd be fine. You know, obviously, I'm sorry for your loss. And if the episode came across more jokey because of the subject matter, you know, I apologize for that. I think I put that in the email, but... So we'll have people find these episodes. That was a really long way to say this. So when I was doing this story about this guy's mom blowing up, at the time in the back of my head, I thought, I wonder if this guy's ever going to hear this podcast. And now... a year later, when I'm listening to it, I'm like, oh my god, dude, this is super, like, again, I don't make jokes about the mom. I don't believe so. I don't make jokes about the family. I make jokes about the situation, but that's always that tightrope you gotta walk. No one's gonna email me and be like, hey, I'm the one who had a spider in my ear and you're a big old jerk for putting me on your podcast. No one's gonna care about that, but that mom one, because I have to think, how would I feel if I heard a podcast about my mom getting blown up? And I think that, I mean, it's your mileage may vary on this. I think I was probably a little too jokey during that part. I probably could have pulled back a bit. I think it depends on how soon afterwards. Like, if it was a couple years afterwards, if I found this podcast and I heard someone talking about my mom being blown up, I would hope that I would understand the humor in it. I hope I would go, yeah, it was kind of funny the way my mom's corpse was blowing up. I don't know. But that was, you can hear, like, you can almost hear me start to laugh and then pull back a bit because I realize it's a real touchy situation. So, and then the last story is about people getting air compressors put up their butt. And it's so funny because I hadn't heard this episode in so long that I was in total suspense of the ending. I did not remember who blew each other's butts up. I didn't remember if it was the clerk who put it in the thief's butthole or the thief put it in the clerk's butthole. It was the thief who did it, but I remember listening to it and I was like, oh my god, what happens next? What happens next? And it's funny because to me that makes that episode successful. Like, I think that story is told in such a way that it's actually suspenseful. So that is, again, another episode of me patting myself on the back, but I wanted to share with you kind of that behind the scenes thing. That this one again is pretty long, but I think you guys got some additional info about one of the things that I am concerned about. Obviously, is doing these stories. There are certain people that can come after me and they can attempt to sue me, but they don't have a leg to stand on. Once I start using their audio, I get a little. You notice I don't do that very often. I don't use a lot of clips, but I do from time to time. I have to weigh that risk, that benefit. The John Storm episode, I'll say this. Originally, I think I used audio clips from him in the earliest version. And on the YouTube video, I actually had photos of him. And I took it down. I took the YouTube portion of the John Storm episode down because of the photos. And I think it's a funny episode. I think it's a really good episode. But I took the photo. I took that one down because he could have easily banged me for the... I've gotten copyright violations for using people's photos before. That's why I stopped using... photos. The old YouTube videos have like custom graphics for each episode. I got hit with copyright strikes for that, and fair enough. It wasn't my material to use, but I didn't want to bother with John Storm coming up to me or give him a leg to stand on. But anyway, so that is the behind the scenes. That's some interesting stuff about how I have to weigh out the type of stories I cover. And you guys got a little follow up, and I don't know what else. I think we just talked about moms blowing up. I'll do my outro because, again, this one's been so long. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. Twitter is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, where we listen to an old episode with a new intro. And this is the end of our Classics Week. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to have the Patreon supporters send me their best classic episodes. There was a bunch that we had. We had Marcus Clausen sent me Hyper Sigils. Colin Danielle sent Sandown the Clown. Elke sent Grand Soy Unified Theory and Salt Mining. Those are all really good episodes as well. They'll probably show up in future Classics Week. But I picked these 5 for particular reasons. And this is the 5th one. This one is recommended by Love Me Some Pickles, longtime Patreon supporter. This episode, we're going to do an outro again, but I do want to say this. I totally want to say this in the beginning. I make a comment about what I would do and what I would do if a giant anthropomorphic sentient cat came to my door. I don't believe that anymore. That is not the case. That is not the case. Even though I said it in the episode, let's go ahead and listen to Dead Rabbit Radio Classics, episode 24. SpongeBob SquarePants defecation broadcast. And we're going to talk about the conspiracy iceberg at the outro as well, so join us for that. An old American folktale with a surprise twist ending. And then we go back to the conspiracy iceberg to take a look at a broadcast of an episode of SpongeBob SquarePants that may have caused an entire nation of children to have explosive diarrhea today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. I hope you're having a great day too. It's a shock to me and probably to you as well that I got through that intro without laughing at the word diarrhea. Don't worry, you'll have many more opportunities to hear me laugh about it as we continue doing this episode. I recently bought a tablet with the gift cards my mom gave me for Christmas. It's pretty awesome. Now when I'm done recording and editing the episode, I just have Star Trek The Next Generation playing all day long. That's the one Star Trek series that I've been interested in that haven't seen every episode. I haven't seen all of the original series, not a huge fan of that, and I'm not into the new Star Trek, the you know, like the new movies and the new television show. I'm not into that. I like The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise. I like all that stuff, but so that's what I got. So that's a little warning. I'm sure in future episodes the Star Trek references will get deeper and deeper as the show goes on. So get ready for a lot of Star Trek references. One thing I've learned when I've been listening back to the show, there's one movie that I reference all the time. It's probably like every 3 or 4 episodes I make a reference to this movie, and I've never seen the movie. Ever. And it's Home Alone. I'm constantly talking about Home Alone style traps in so many episodes. And then I was like, I've never seen that movie, but it's such an iconic image of just like these improvised traps that a kid would make that they're fairly effective. So Home Alone, but I have no interest in seeing Home Alone. However, what I do have interest in, how is that for a segue, is telling you the story of Taily Po. Now, Taily Po is one of those things that is kind of like half cryptid, half 100% fictional. And you could argue that almost all cryptids are 100% fictional. But it's a story from American folklore, and I just thought there was something interesting in it. Maybe it was the visuals, maybe it was the creepiness / childlike version of the story that I came across. This idea was actually to read off any more American folklores. Blame Ramsey, but I found this story super interesting. Ramsey emailed this to me. So, like I said, this is from North American folklore. And it's like in the early, or probably like late 1800s. It's Appalachian. It's from the Appalachians. So it's like hillbilly story. It's the story of Taily Po. He also goes by many different names, depending on who's telling the story. You have Taily Bones, Tailbones, Taily Po, Tally Po. I think they were just kind of making stuff up at a certain point. And they're like, Grandpa, tell us the story of the cat again. And he's like, which one? And they're like, Taily Bones? He's like, yeah, that was its name, Taily Bones. Like, I think they just started picking out different names because Taily Po is kind of the name that it goes off of. So we'll give this a shot. We'll see how this works. Because maybe it won't work. Maybe it'll suck, but we'll see. So Taily Po in the folklore was a cat the size of a dog, as smart as a human, and incredibly vicious. Long, sharp, black claws, black fur. It was a night hunter, and it had an exceptionally long tail. So do tails make noise when they move? Like if you put your ear super close to a dog's butt, would you hear a... Is the tails wagging? I don't know. I've never done that. Anyways, here's the story. There's multiple versions of this. I'm going to tell you the story that I read, and then